I did wish him that. Have a great night.
Call to order. Call to order. Welcome to the Laramie City Council work session, followed by a special meeting, Monday, September 8th, 2025. And to begin our work session, I will ask if there's any public comment on non-agenda items. Yes, sir. Welcome, Mr. Gruber.
Mayor and City Council members, I just want to make you aware of something you may not have thought of. National debt today is over $37.5 billion. Problem. The average taxpayer, according to U.S. debt clock, is over $324,000 per taxpayer. Family of two, what's that, $648,000. So as we move into our budget sessions and figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to allocate money, keep that in mind because we're going to ask for more money, right? We're just compounding the debt. Something's going to have to hit the wall somewhere along the way, and I don't think it's too far away. So we should be looking at reducing spending, cutting it instead of spending more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gruber. Any further public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we'll begin our work session, which today is discussing the project list and priority proposed for the 2026 specific purpose excise tax. And before we get started looking at our materials and determining priorities, we have two of our partner agencies here, and I'm wondering if either or both of you would like to speak. So if we can start with your, very brief presentation or to address council so that then we can move on. Amy Terrell? Since you were sitting on the outside.
Thank you, Mayor Cuppy and council members.
Okay.
I've never been told I'm quiet. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I have spent some time speaking to some of our elected officials, and we wanted to change the airport's request. I know I sent you the request for $9 million for a hangar. That's something we believe we can get a SLIB loan for. We're still interested in moving forward on that, but for sake of the SPET tax, we'd like to change our ask from $9 million to $4 million. What we would like to do is, I don't think we realized at the time, I thought we had to attach the money to a specific project. What we'd like to do is attach it to our critical infrastructure and our match money. So it's the critical infrastructure repairs at the airport and the local match funds for our FAA projects. A little bit of history on how we have currently done our match money. Over the past 4 years, we have been able to meet all of our FAA project requirements by carefully setting aside COVID and CRISA relief money. So that was kind of the money that came in during COVID, right when the administration changed. And what we did was we looked forward to what all of our match funds would be for the next 5 years. And we took all that money and set it aside in an account. So as the projects started coming through, the FAA and the state approved them. We had our local match at all times and didn't have to come to the city or county for that money. We just had that set aside to continue with the infrastructure of these projects. The projects that we do with the airport or that we did over the last 4 years, some of them pretty significant. Our fire truck was expired by 5 years. We were able to purchase a new fire truck with our match money. I say our match money, there was other money that came in, but the local match money. We were able to secure 3 large pieces of equipment that are critical for our winter operations and our summer operations. We were able to update all of our runway lighting, the old runway lights that burn so much power, to LED lights, which is safer and more cost effective. We were able to do a complete seal coat project on all the taxiways and runways, pavement markings, a crack seal project, and it did an addition to our ARF building, which is our aircraft rescue and firefighting building, to house some of the new equipment we bought. So the strategy of setting money aside has allowed us to keep our projects moving forward without requiring additional local funds, which has ensured we've stayed in compliance with the federal requirements. We have an upcoming project we're hoping is approved. So we just presented to the FAA and the state. It's a $9.2 million project. It is our apron. That is the area in front of the FBO, the fixed base operator, and the terminal. And that's where all of our commercial traffic and our general aviation traffic come in and park. The ramp there is so bad. I have a rock on my desk this big to remind us that it's just in terrible condition. It hasn't been kept up for years. This project is $9.2 million. Out of that, our local match will be $285,094. We have enough money in our account, so we're going to go ahead and we've presented this hoping that it is approved. It will deplete our match account. So this will be the final bit of money we have set aside for our match account. When I say we've presented it to the FAA and state, every project that we have match money for goes in front of the FAA and the state, and it's on a priority rating model, meaning the FAA takes the region and says, how does a runway compare to a ramp? It's very low. A runway would not be they would replace a runway at an airport before they would put any money towards a ramp, for example. And then the state does the same thing within the state. They look at all their funding and decide what projects in the state they want to fund. I think what I'd like to do is kind of tell you a breakdown of how the match money works. Is this too long? Shorten it? Got it. Okay. So essentially, we're waiting to get that approved. What we'd like to do is when we ask for $4 million, we'd like to use that money to put into a match account. So essentially, we'd like to set it aside so that we can guarantee the airport till 2035 is going to meet all of their projects. As the airport struggles financially and rights itself, we will be in compliance with everything we do. We will be sure that we're moving forward with our projects. Most of what is coming up is critical infrastructure. It is for runways and taxiways. Right now, we're in the place where we can rehab our runways and taxiways, come and finish them. If we wait much longer, what happens is they turn into rehabs. So they completely have to rehabilitate it, and the cost goes up quite a bit. So I think just out of knowing what all of the needs at the city and the county are, I think this is a better ask. I think long-term, it will be better for the airport to secure that. And we would also like to, when we write it up if it's approved, when we write it up, we'd like to include any critical infrastructure locally that has to be funded. So for example, if heaters went out or a new roof, we would put that in there too for something. But essentially, we would like to readjust our ask. Are there questions about that?
Any questions, councilors?
Sorry, but I was
Okay.
a little winded there.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And Sarah Matthews Brown.
Thank you, Mayor Cumby, City Council members. I'm a terrible person about remembering to acknowledge our board members that are with us, so I'm going to start with that. Charlie DeWolf serves as our chair. Leah Burgess is here. She's our vice chair, and also Dan McCoy serves on the board. We're here tonight just to reiterate to you the fact that we are grateful for the opportunity to come before you with this request for you to consider a carve out for Pilot Hill for our long-term sustainability for the Pilot Hill area here in Albany County and in Laramie. As you know, we have invested about $5.5 million in the property since we started this project in late 2017, early 2018. And we're at the place where we have finished the infrastructure. We'll be finishing the trailhead this year and really creating a unique facility for the city of Laramie to help meet a lot of the goals that the city council has. Quality of life is number one. Mental health is a huge aspect of our issue. And I just am thrilled to death to know that this Saturday we have over 500 youth from across the state coming to run a cross-country meet at Pilot Hill. These are the types of things that we're really trying to do long-term for the community. The reality is that we've been successful in fundraising for Pilot Hill because we've been able to say that the community has a lot of skin in the game. All of the major donors that we've gone to, the state with $1 million grant, a local donor who gave us $1 million, an out-of-town donor who gave us $800,000. We're really impressed by the fact that the city and the county were working together to make this happen, and that we had over 1,000 community members who were investing regularly in Pilot Hill. We also know that it's a lot more sexy to be able to say, would you like your name on this cool building or on this trail, than to say, would you help us pick up trash and clean the bathrooms? So we're concerned about the long-term viability of the project. We feel like we need to have a multi-leg stool. We need to continue to fundraise to make it happen, but we also need some earned income that is just sustained and generated through an endowment or a trust to allow us to meet the operating costs of the property. This area is 11 square miles, which is a little more than half the size of the city of Laramie. We anticipate it's going to cost us around $200,000 to $300,000 annually to manage it. And so by carving out some of the SPET funds to put into a trust, we feel like there would be an ongoing income stream that would be beneficial to the property and help us not constantly be coming to you with our handout. Jerry and I serve as election judges together, and he teases me about the fact that every time he sees me, it's because I'm here to ask for money. And he's right. I do come to the city and to the county a lot and ask you for money, and our hope is that we can avoid that in the future by having this invested fund. Our goal is to build a trust for $10 million to have it spin out what we need. I don't anticipate that the city or the county can come up with that kind of funding out of this SPED initiative. But by giving us the seed funding to make this happen, I think we can be successful in raising the rest of it. The other thing that I'd really like to point out is that we really are an economic driver in this community. I think that this is the right vehicle because it's going to tap into all those lovely friends of ours from Colorado that are going to come and spend time on Pilot Hill and spend money in our businesses in town. They'll get to help us pay for this. And it will also create new jobs and new business opportunities in our community over the long run. We anticipate, based on research that's been done, that we'll generate at least $1 million annually in property in sales, in addition to what's already happening here. So with that in mind, we do come to you with our hands out. We hope that you'll consider how this opportunity can support the long-term vision of the community. I also encourage you to think about the fact that it does bring some diversity to the set of projects that you'll be presenting to our community and our voters. It may attract voters to this initiative that you might not attract with things like stormwater pipes or other fun projects that we know that you have to address. Do you have any questions or?
Councilors, any questions for Sarah?
Again, I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And Todd Feaser, if you will begin our work session, please.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. First, I'm going to set the stage with where we've been and where we're going, and then hopefully get out of the way and let council have a discussion around how we set the priority list and what the amounts might look like. As you may remember, on August 20th, we had a work session on education of the specific purpose excise tax. It was led by Jen Wade and followed up by myself with a little opening and a list of projects that may be submitted. On September 2nd, this council elected a subcommittee that consisted of Mayor Sharon Cumming, Vice Mayor Micah Richardson, and Councilor Matt Lockhart to work with staff on creating a prioritized list to bring back to this group for ratification to take to negotiations with the Albany County Board of Commissioners and the Town of Rock River Town Council. That committee met on September 3rd, September 4th, September 5th, and September 8th. And tonight what you're going to see is the outcome of what that committee has constructed and come forward with for you all to consider as we look for the priority list for them to take to the 9/15 meeting. Tonight we're going to have the work session, and as you indicated, we'll move from the work session into a special meeting to approve the list and make sure that we have an official list from the city of Laramie ready to be authorized for the specific purpose excise tax. With that being said, we'll move on to the project list, if you don't mind, Nancy. What you'll see before you is the project list of 14 items that were developed out of the specific purpose excise tax subcommittee of the City of Laramie City Council. Project priority number 1 is the Laramie Police Department, which is the either renovation or replacement of the Laramie Police Department at an estimated $12 million. That $12 million does include funding for bonding so that the project could be bonded up front and be paid for and get underway ahead of the full collection of the funding. Project number 2 is the Laramie Animal Shelter replacement. As you know, that area where the Laramie Animal Shelter is slated for redevelopment, hopefully into multifamily, plus the building has really outlived its useful life and it's time to look for a new animal shelter. We've estimated $3.6 million that also includes bonding, so that project can move ahead of the collections. Project number 3, the Laramie Fire Department number 1 replacement. Estimated amount on that is $8.4 million and includes bonding so that that project can move ahead and try to get us out the gate and get the project constructed ahead of expenses escalating through inflation. That project's interesting. As you know, we have a new set of dorms in town that are going to require some changes in our firefighting apparatus. It's really difficult for our chief to purchase equipment based on where he can store it instead of buying equipment that's based on what's actually needed in this community and is set in that position. Project number 4 priority is surface water drainage improvements. This subcommittee opted to place asked to place $4 million on the ballot with a $3 million pledge from the general fund reserves. That would create $7 million over the 10 years of that estimated tax collection. Project number 5 are street projects. An estimated $9 million in SPT funds with $7 million in general fund reserve pledged. That $9 million also includes a $2 million initiative for paved to unpaved to paved roads, which more than likely is slated for West Laramie area. Project number 6, the Bill Nye. I've got that labeled wrong. I should have read that. West Bill Nye, which is the western end, basically from 5th Street to 15th Street is what we're envisioning this funding coming through for at $5.5 million. That would include culverts and a crossing over Spring Creek, heading south towards I-80 and then making a left turn once it gets past the storage units and heading to the east and doing a finalization. The realization of that project is although we do get USAC funds, they're not going to come in at an amount to help us get this project done in any time that's critical for the development, the growth that continues to happen in Laramie. Project number 7 is the Laramie Regional Airport. The subcommittee had suggested that we put $1.5 million of the city's request towards the Laramie Regional Airport. And if you see in the resolution that you'll hopefully approve later is that that's part of Laramie Regional Airport support is what it's listed at. Project number 8 is $1 million to sidewalk improvement program. This was brought from a council member after the last meeting, and so the committee felt strongly enough about it to line that up as project number 8. Project number 9, general facility upgrades at the Laramie Community Recreation Center. Project number 9 at the general facility upgrades at the Laramie Community Recreation Center. That facility is beyond 20 years old now, and we're starting to have some issues where we might have to repair or renovate pool decks or make other corrections. And we had estimated that we'd invest about $2 million in that facility to continue to keep it the bright, shiny penny that it deserves to be. Project number 10 is a West Laramie Park and Playground. The West Laramie that we're talking about is west of the interstate and south of 130, east of 230, and is one of our last park deserts. A park desert is defined as an area that's divided by geographical or street conditions that make it hard for people to cross, and there is no park in that area, so it's one of our last park deserts in our community. Project number 11, the Undine Washington Park splash pad upgrades. This project's intended to upgrade the Undine splash pad to make it more controlled, less manpower heavy and maybe operate off of a different water source. And then Washington Park is a replacement of the wading pool that requires a lifeguard to a splash pad to continue to offer those amenities to the community at $1 million. Project 12 is community sports facilities. This is born out of the community sports study that was one of council's goals this last year. The community sports facility is ongoing, but we estimated that $5 million may be able to conduct hopefully the first or second priority projects that come out of that community sports facility study. Project 13, the public transportation pilot program to West Laramie, was brought up by council member. We did just receive some information today that it's about $1.5 million for 1 year of operations for one test period pilot to go out to West Laramie. So we feel pretty confident in this number. We think there's still some work to do, but that number is actually been corroborated with the consultant that's working on our public transportation study at this point. And finally, project number 14 is the Pilot Hill project, where the subcommittee had estimated that we would be willing to contribute about $1 million towards the Pilot Hill project if deemed legal and feasible by specific purpose excise tax rules and regulations. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have of me. Otherwise, my goal was for us to slide away and allow the mayor, the vice mayor, and Councilor Lockhart to lead the discussion on any changes or anything that we might have going on related to prioritization and funding levels.
Thank you, Todd. First, are there any questions that you all have right now of Todd? Yes, Councilor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Assistant City Manager Fieser, for this. And I know we'll get into some of the weeds here in a minute, but just could you describe the difference between the special purpose tax project column and the general fund reserve, maybe for folks looking at it?
Obviously, actually, it may be better if I bow out and let Director Wade answer that question. It is a financial question. I will answer it correctly.
And I guess while Director Wade's coming up, for the public out there, this spreadsheet is on the agenda currently, correct, City Clerk? Okay, thanks.
And if you could repeat your question, please, because I was actually looking at some accounting stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Director Wade. I was just curious if you could describe the difference between the special purpose tax column under costs, the cost header, and the general fund reserve, just for folks to understand, why we see two columns of numbers and what those mean.
Absolutely. Honorable Mayor, through you to Council Member Freed. As Todd and I were looking at the list of requests that came from departments, we thought it was important to acknowledge general funds that we had in reserve that could be used as match for our proposed project list to you. So saying, well, we can contribute resources from the general fund for these items and these amounts based on the amount of reserves we have in hand right now. So it was a way to help the specific purpose tax go a little further. We would recommend to you, if you like these amount of reserves, that you do a formal commitment of reserves, and you will see that in your resolution this evening. And of course, based on the final list, we would come back and look at those a second time. Was that helpful?
Yes.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions to start with first that councilors want to clarify? Yes, Councilor O'Doherty.
I wonder if Director Wade would mind reminding us of how much we initially had from the general fund reserve and from SPET in that surface water drainage improvement, because that was factored in initially when we came up with those numbers, right?
Correct. So for the specific purpose tax initiative, we said we needed around $6 million to support the financial plan that the City Council adopted through the rates. I think that's a fair way to say it. And so what we're showing here is that $6 million, half from the SPET and half from the general fund. And remember, the additional $5 million, and all of this is on pause right now. So I'm just back speaking as it was adopted, if you will. There was also $5 million from the general fund to create that utility. This money is on top of that. It is not a substitution for at this point in time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions that you might have? All right. So then comments and discussion. Any comments about our priorities? Councillor Freed.
Thank you, Mayor. Not being on the subcommittee that reviewed these, I think a lot of these projects and priorities fall in line with what we've been talking about with the public. But my biggest question or concern is that this will go on a ballot, assuming we go through negotiations with the county and the town of Rock River, and just making sure that we have ample feedback to make sure that people will be willing to vote for these things. I think I've heard from different individuals on a lot of these line items over my 9 months here, but I don't know if we have a mechanism to gauge, with how fast we're moving through this to ensure that we could get this passed. Besides looking at previous years, I know the SPET tax has been voted on very favorably in the last 20 years here in the city of Laramie, but that'd be my only kind of comment and concern. So I don't know if the subcommittee would just talk about maybe how these priorities were formed, or between city input and discussion. Maybe that would be helpful to start.
Councilors? Councillor Lockhart.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Freed. Basically, we were asked to give our input as councillors, our top projects we think that we could utilize the SPET fund for. So we had that list made with everybody's input versus, over our last 9 months here. And so that's where that came from. And then with quite a bit of help from Mr. Fieser and Ms. Wade to figure out, how much funds we need, how much we can get with the general fund. And of course, that meeting we had with the county commissioners on what's our max ask between the two. And then we sat down and did a priority list, and that's up for discussion tonight on priority. This is kind of what we came up with. And then we all contacted we were assigned a couple counselors apiece to go through this so we can get some feedback from you guys too, because that's very important. We don't want to have a quorum, so we didn't have 9 people at once, right? Or even 5. So we want to make sure that we get everybody's feedback on this, because if there's some disagreement, we want to get it handled now, So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I would just add to that, when looking at the projects, I think from my perspective and thinking about past taxes that have been on the ballot, actually something kind of that Sarah brought up, a kind of a range of projects, right, where we are making sure we are hitting those necessities that are important to the infrastructure and movement of our city, but also recognizing that a lot of our voters want to see projects that are, that are beneficial to the community in different ways, that engage in different ways. And so that was part of my thought on it too.
And I think we, in looking at this, took into account much of the feedback that we receive in an ongoing manner from individuals about the need for us to update our infrastructure, for us to offset some of the expense of the stormwater for individuals in the community, to also we tried to look at more critical needs. Our police department is grossly it's not an appropriate facility at this point in time for the size of the police department. We really must do something to expand that. As Mr. Fieser talked about with the fire station, we are going to have to get a new fire engine with longer ladder to be able to cover the new dorms and the higher buildings at the university. And currently, we do not have a bay that would accommodate that. And this current structure on 4th Street is very old, as you know. So we are going to need a new station at some point. So we began to try to look at critical infrastructure that will prepare our community for both the present and for growth in the future. Then we each, so as not to create difficulties with the forum, we each contacted two individuals on the council to go over and see if there was any feedback. We did receive some feedback and tried to incorporate that into what's being presented to you today. Yes, Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have a question. Has there been any ask from the university for the extra expense that we obviously are going to have to go to create a new fire station because of their dorms? And also, will they participate in paying for the equipment that's necessary for just their specific use and not for the community in general?
That's a good question.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, that question has not been asked at this time.
Thank you. Other comments? Councilor Newman.
Assistant City Manager, you were giving us a list of what was bonded and what wasn't, and then I stopped writing them down, or you stopped saying them, one of the two. Can you tell me which items are bonded and which ones aren't?
Projects 1 through 3 are carrying bonding financing numbers.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Councilor O'Doherty?
Yeah, will the bonding amount be obvious on the ballot? What portion is for the bonding?
Honorable Mayor, through you, it's put in as a lump sum based on the estimated principal interest. So if we do dedicate it on a certain number, then that's all you can use that for. So we leave it in a lump sum that allows for bonding. And that way, if interest rates go down and we get it like it was in 2018, we've got more money towards the project and less money towards the financing at that rate.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Director Wade.
Mayor Cumbie, I thought it might be helpful if I added it's 17 million in bonding at a 4% interest rate.
Thank you, Director. Further questions and or comments? Councilor O'Doherty.
I'm the one that recommended the sidewalk improvement program. And it's because I recall that Councilor Shumway and I were both advocating for that. I don't know about $1 million because I have no idea what $1 million buys us in sidewalks. I know that the grinding program was pretty cheap. So this would be at a different scale. I was just wondering, what would $1 million of sidewalk improvement, could that be help matching property owners so that they could bring their sidewalks up to make them accessible? Or just wondering. Thanks.
Thank you. We were going to get an answer to that first. Yes.
Honorable Mayor, through you, I think that the sidewalk question in itself, for me personally, is a hard question because, the sidewalks are actually the responsibility of the adjacent homeowner. There's no doubt that we have failing sidewalks and we have problems, and that's an impact on our homeowners. As far as rules around how that money would be used, they haven't been promulgated or decided. But there is a significant need in this community as identified through the recent LIDAR. I don't think we have the final results, but as you go around, that there's a significant need. A lot of the issues, some of the sidewalks might even be an issue of underwater stormwater pipes that have failed or ground conditions that weren't properly accounted for when they were built. When you run into those problems, you run into massive expenses just to repair sidewalk. Because if you don't fix the undersurface, then the sidewalk will continue to fail, continue to cause those problems. I don't actually believe that over 10 years, $1 million is an infeasible amount to put towards a sidewalk improvement program. It's just a matter of the rules that are promulgated around it.
Thank you. Councillor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. Couple of comments. One, there was a time when the city had a sidewalk curb and gutter program where it was 50-50. The homeowners would participate in 50%, the city would do 50%. Our focus has been on handicap access for sidewalks. And so I want to continue to do that, to hit that priority first. And I think that's where I would like to see this money focused on making that accessible to those that have a handicap.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lockhart.
Thanks, Mayor. I want to echo the sentiment of Councillor Shumway, especially you go around, the tree area and all these corners, you'll trip going up and down. And I don't know how folks that are handicapped or in wheelchairs maneuver it. I really don't. So I echo that. I think that should be the priority on this.
Thank you. Further comments or questions, councilors? Councillor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I guess for Assistant City Manager, and I can't remember if I asked this a couple of weeks ago, so forgive me if I did, but 20 million of this ask is for the police department and fire department. At one point in time, there were some conversations about having a joint facility, maybe with the county as well, or within just the city of Laramie. I think putting individual funds protects us in case conversations don't happen or we're at different timelines if we were to do something with the county. But, is there any idea that some of that money can be pulled together strategically, or is this, this is the start of a potential 10-year collection or something that we would need to get some more info on?
Honorable Mayor, through you to Councillor Freed, is that I don't believe that this has thwarted any of that work on a joint public service safety center. It's going to really depend on where the county's funding lands and if they put funds toward that. There's no way that funds raised for the city could be used to fund a county facility, right? And so we've really got to be prepared. It's really going to come down to where the ballot language is framed and what kind of leniency it gives us. And that's why we place in there replacement or renovation of the Laramie Police Department. So depending on the outcome of the study, it could be one or the other of those two options.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowling.
Thank you, Mayor. This could be a question for maybe Assistant City Manager Feaser or maybe Director Bork, but when we say general facility upgrades for the rec center, can we get some clarification on some of those proposals? Because I know that the pool is a considerable one and one of the biggest reasons that people use the rec center, but there's also been some other things floated. And I think we would, in trying to message this to the public, it would be helpful for us to understand what those top priorities are going to be with that $2 million.
Honorable Mayor, through you, I think there is a potential for some different parts and pieces that are going to have to be picked up. Over the past few years, there's been rather massive investment in the Laramie Community Recreation Center through the City Council and General Fund reserves and support that has happened. But both pool decks are starting to degrade through the chemical use and the other pieces. And so those will probably become more of a higher priority. There's also a potential that we might have to work on developing some kind of storage on the recently removed 8-lane pool bleachers area to allow for storage of equipment that continues to maintain that facility. Other upgrades could be, I'm not sure what the life expectancy is on the basketball floor. We've got other pieces, parts and equipment that are continuing to degrade, are going to need to be replaced at this time or in the near future.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. And can we be reminded of if it was a focus on those pool decks, how much of that $2 million would go toward those pool decks? Do we know an estimate of that?
Honorable Mayor, through you, that's a very difficult estimate. It's an incredibly difficult project to work inside of a building and remove a concrete floor or grind it down. It may, quite honestly, the pool decks may take the entire $2 million.
That's kind of what I was wondering, if it was going to get at that full 2 million. So we could pretty safely assume that 2 million is going to, a good chunk of it's going to go to that pool deck.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Vigil.
Thank you, Mayor. My only question would be for the community sports facilities. So it says estimated amount for the construction of new or renovation of existing facilities. Is that an either or thing? Can we renovate and then like maybe down the line get some other funding to build something new, or what does that look? Is that either or basically?
Honorable Mayor, through you to Councilor Vigil, over the years, this community has had an excellent relationship with the University of Wyoming on sports facilities. Case in point, Cowboy Field and Little League Complex, Aragon. A lot of that is going to come through the study and finding out if the university wants to continue to be that partner. I'm a firm believer that renovation of existing facilities is cheaper on most cases than building brand new. A little bit of investment in Cowboy Field and a synthetic infield and some bleacher improvements can make that facility go a long ways. Replacing the lights and correcting the ADA issues at the Little League Complex can make that facility go a long ways and last for many years. But the study may show something different. We don't know yet. So it might say that we need a new soccer complex and four fields softball facility down by the fairgrounds, potentially. There's no way to know what the study is going to do, but is it an and or? Not necessarily, but I think it's a waiting to see what comes out of it and what is the best investment for this community and how it works. Director Bork may have some different ideas on how to move forward. As I'm talking from a past Parks and Rec guy, and there is a new Parks and Rec guy, but he's got great views, got great ideas, and it's going to be an exciting leader for a project of that magnitude for sure.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. And just one other note for all of us and for the public, that description that is there is our description that we will work from. The language that goes on the ballot could then be more specific to and or all of these kind of smaller details. But this gives us, I would say, our guide, and we will follow it. But if language needs to be tweaked a little bit to be more encompassing, I think from my understanding at that ballot language spot is where we will work some of that.
Thank you for clarifying that. Councilor O'Doherty.
I just want to pipe in about, I'm glad to see that you're considering renovating the police department and maybe adding to it instead of just replacing it, because it was built about 50 years ago by engineers for engineers when it was the Banner Building, and they took into account the expansive soils there. I know the slab probably has some issues, but that's stuff that could be renovated. So I feel like it's got a solid foundation and all that I would like to see us renovate rather than replace. But I also not that comfortable with the police having to come out from that intersection in an emergency where there's all that traffic coming from the interstate and everything and coming up 287. So I can also see the advantage of having a combined public safety building. So I guess that's down the road, but I appreciate that at least we would consider renovating. So thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Freed.
Thank you, Mayor. I think one of the subcommittee priority number 5, the streets project, $9 million estimated amount to provide maintenance of existing paved roadways, $2 million unpaved to paved initiatives in West Laramie. I guess Assistant City Manager, I know you spoke before on previous special purpose excise taxes. We've had to kind of list, a ton of streets. That way, that's the only way that if we allocate funding, it has to be listed. Is that going to be the same, or, that's our second biggest ask? And if we don't, are we just going to put a big chunk of roads on there because that's what we have to do if we want to spend any money on those roads? Or are we able with the guidelines to be able to be more specific?
Honorable Mayor, through you to Councilor Freed, that's something the subcommittee did talk about, and not wanting to have that huge list of streets that may not ever be touched. The thing that we've got to be cognizant of is really identifying the projects and making sure that we can address what's available on there without, again, tightening it up or making it too difficult for us to be able to react in case a different road fails ahead of one another road is getting there. So we are planning to work with our bond council or our council that counseled us to list every street to talk about if we can actually change that language a little bit and still be covered and legally use the funding towards street projects.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Honor. Another topic, extension of Bill 9 from 5th to 15th, where we're talking about the I think it's over the Spring Creek Channel to have some kind of a bridge or something like that. My understanding was in the years past, there was commitments from developers to contribute or to pay for that. I don't know if that has gone away because of, I think some companies have gone bankrupt, or if that's still available to us to participate in this. Is this going to be a project that's the city's totally responsible for, or will developers participate in this extension from 5th to 15th of Bill 9?
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, through you to Councilor Shumway, that agreement for that construction has been, how do I want to say, negotiated out. And so the developers will not be participating in that section. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
There are additional funds, though, that we can access or likely access for that project, though, correct?
Honorable Mayor, through you. Yeah, there are funds that we will try to go after. They're not guaranteed to be there for sure. Potentially some of the USAC funds may be available for that project to help, which is, I believe, around $465,000 a year, but they're just not going to collect up. And I believe some of those are actually committed on the current Bill 9 project into the future now as it sits. But there is federal highway transportation alternative programs that might be able to help with some of the pedestrian infrastructure or such, or some other funds that we could apply for. The problem is they're just simply not guaranteed. They're highly sought after, extremely competitive, very difficult grants to win.
Further comments or questions? Councilor O'Doherty.
I guess I just want to note that some of the people that were unhappy with us about storm drainage, I heard specifically several people say, well, you're spending too much on parks and recreation, and you should just put all your money to streets. But this gives us an opportunity to ask the voters what they would like. And we've had pretty good support for recreation. What concerns me is like Pilot Hill's already there, and the community sports facilities aren't there. If that's built out, then we have to support all the maintenance of new facilities. So I feel like what we just heard about Pilot Hill with the bicycle races and stuff sounds like what Councilor Lockhart was kind of describing about things that would bring people into town for competition. So anyway, I'm just torn about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Newman.
It's kind of where my comment was going to, doing some quick math. If we went in and we're under the number that was mentioned at the work session, we're going to have to cut some of these. And if my math is right, it's the bottom four. And that would be the Pilot Hill. That would be, the West Laramie Connect and things like that. So I don't know how to rearrange these to make it, some money for Pilot Hill. So maybe I'm just speculating. She doesn't have to come back and ask for as much for the community partners, so then we can open up some money for that, right, and help some more partners out. So I'm just having a hard time with the community sports facilities above kind of 13 and 14 because that study isn't done yet either, right? So what if they came back and say, hey, you guys are cool and you only need $2 million? And so just, I don't know, I would like to see 12 kind of go down to the very bottom until that survey is done. And I think there was rumor that we could find some money in some other grants and stuff for that first. Just my overall thought process.
Councilor Doherty?
I was thinking that might be an opportunity for a 7-cent, like for down the road. If we really think that the public is clamoring to have a facility like they have in Casper or Gillette. I just don't think that we're that community that can support such a big project, but I know it was a council goal, so I'm trying to not be a negative Nelly.
Councilor Newman?
Assistant City Manager, could we hypothetically, so the rec center, could we make that more broad that and use it kind of like where that said, fix or replace? Could we do something within that? Maybe add another $1 million that just goes to the ball fields, or some of those, the two that you mentioned that could use some improvements?
Honorable Mayor, through you, I don't believe you can combine those projects through the specificity of the specific purpose excise tax. And I would actually recommend against trying to make that connection. If anything, potentially, if you want to have money towards sports facilities for improvements, that number could be done, but we just, again, not having the study done, we're not sure where it goes. Does it lead us towards a new sports facility that's all indoor sports, or are we headed towards improving outdoor sports? Does it affect an ice center? We're just not sure without study being completed where the best expenditure of those funds is.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. And thank you, Councilor Newman. I appreciate your thoughts on that. And I feel comfortable moving that up, knowing that other isn't available yet. But I also know that I very much love Pilot Hill. So I would love to hear others' thoughts on that as well. And so for me, moving that to 12 and then the other two down, I am comfortable with.
Can you clarify again where you're saying?
So if I am hearing what Councilor Newman had suggested, it was to move Pilot Hill to number 12, then the public transportation pilot program, and then the community sports facilities.
And Councilor Newman, you had a comment?
When will we, a question, when will we find out if the Pilot Hill endowment is actually legal through the specific purpose tax?
Either one. Sarah?
To you, Mayor. Councilor Newman, I can't give you a specific date, but we've asked the county attorney to investigate. So she's doing the research, and we'll be working with the AG to confirm whether or not they could hold it. We believe that our management agreement with the county will allow that to work, that the county would hold it. And then those funds, as they accrue, would be utilized to pay for the lease and the other fees that we have.
Thank you, Sarah. Councilor Lockhart, and then Councilor Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd be okay moving the sports facilities to the bottom just because we don't have the study done. I think it's something that would be near and dear to the community to have a competing sports facility / facilities, but there's a lot of unknowns right now. And I think, as Councilor Doherty said, maybe even having a 7-cent tax down the road is something we've discussed as an option, that once we know what we can do, I think the community could get behind it. But right now we don't really have, outside of renovations, I think we could find maybe a different avenue for now.
Thank you. Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate all the comments from everyone. Specifically, Councillor Newman mentioned that we don't know whether or not the endowment that was an ask from Pilot Hill is legal or not. The one thing that I want to mention about both Pilot Hill's endowment and also the matching funds for the airport, in the past, the specific purpose tax has been for specific projects, not for endowments, not for matching funds, but for specific projects. And so that concerns me a bit that we're sending out and saying we want to have people have a reserve for ongoing expected expenses, or, you know, to endow, you know, Pilot Hill for their future. I understand the Laramie Recreation Center has around $2 million in their endowment fund, which is probably less than what they're asking from the specific purpose tax for the Pilot Hill.
Councillor O'Doherty.
I thought there was an endowment for the rec center on a specific purpose tax years ago.
Director Wade.
Honorable Mayor, through you, just because I think it might help clear some things up. And so there are some allowances in the statute for the SPET that allow for specific purposes for endowments to be created. I am not an expert in those statutes, but I do know that when the rec center was built, and that's what Councilmember Shumway, I think, was referring to earlier, because it was built for a specific purpose, we also could create an endowment for the operations and maintenance of that. It's also why it's really important. This legal review that's happening at the county is really important for the purposes of Pilot Hill and that proposed endowment.
Thank you for the clarification. Further comments or questions? I would also be agreeable toward the shift in priorities in moving the community sports facility to last, into moving Pilot Hill up to either 11 or 10. Any other comments or yes, Councillor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think I would be in support of those changes as well. And I guess I have two questions. Maybe you might be able to answer them. One, you know, when we set this priority list, can we describe the process of what that means? So then we'll go to the negotiating table with the county and the town of Rock River with this list. You know, and so is this the last time that we'll be here where the public can voice their opinion? And if it is, or if it isn't, also, I'd like, before we set these 14 ideas, I'd like to hear from the public if we could. I know we're getting there, I think, but just maybe a little bit about the process, whether that's assistant city manager, where this list goes from, I guess. Thanks.
Okay. And then
Honorable Mayor, through you, this list will go to a public meeting at Rock River on the 15th, where the public will have more opportunity to speak and be part of the process. That will hopefully lead to a list that's somewhat ratified by the county commissioners, the Rock River Town Council, and the city of Laramie, that brings back ballot language that's approved by resolution, which will allow itself some more open public comment at that time and some review.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Newman.
What's the average upkeep of a park in Laramie for a year?
Honorable Mayor, you know, I don't know.
Probably depends on the park. If you get a text question, maybe. Yes.
Honorable Mayor, if I could, I just want to elaborate a little bit on Assistant City Manager's response earlier. I feel like the importance of the priority list is capturing the will of the body so that your negotiating team truly understands that will. In the event that we find ourselves saying, well, there's not enough tax to cover these asks, what should go? That priority list, staff would advise you, should represent those council decisions about what would maybe go off of that list first. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Councilor Doherty?
So the sidewalks, again, I brought it up because I thought it was also a common thing that when we talked about TAP funds. And I wonder if TAP funds will be available, or is that program going away? And I'm just wondering if we could cut the sidewalk improvement program down. Because I feel like if we could get TAP funds and also match like homeowners and stuff, maybe just reduce that amount. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with money.
Honorable Mayor.
Yes.
Through you, I don't believe we've had any indication that TAP's gone away at this point. But again, those are competitive and they're chasing grants that are not going to be there. This is the part of the discussion for you, Councilor Doherty, where it's up to this council to decide and make some decisions on what they would like to see done.
Yeah.
Do you have a recommendation?
I guess I would like to maybe, I don't know, I would see what Councilor Shumway thinks. We have $1 million there now. I don't know if I was representing you properly to say that I knew that this was a priority of yours and you weren't there the day that we talked about this, but how would you feel about if we cut that to $500,000?
Your Honor, could I?
Yes. Councilor Shumway.
I don't want to take away from the opportunity to provide handicap access. So I'd like to keep it where it is.
Thank you.
One additional comment to that, if I may, Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
I also, in thinking about the expense of all of the things that we've seen, I can't imagine that $1 million will even go that far towards 88. And so I would love to see, I don't think we should reduce that personally. I just think we need probably all that we can get to make that go, as if we're going to make it go very far at all.
I agree. Councilor Vigil.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. A little bit unrelated, but going back to what you were suggesting, Councilor Newman, are you suggesting that community sports facilities moves down to the bottom, but then Pilot Hill is moving up? And I heard like that would go into spot 12 at first, but then I also heard 10. So which?
Yeah, where would we?
My idea was just move that to the bottom and then those two shift
Okay.
up.
The two.
Yeah.
Okay. So it would become 12. $14.
My idea was take the community facilities down to 14.
Yeah.
And then public, West Laramie public goes up and to 12, Pilot Hill becomes 13. So they just shift up. That was my idea. But then I heard 10 and I was like, well, that kind of works too. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think with the state of our public transportation development program right now, being in the midst of a study, in the midst of partnership negotiation, et cetera, I would move that down and Pilot Hill to 12. Public transportation pilot program 13, stay where it is. So I would switch those two. Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think at this point we want to start cutting funds, because we start cutting funds now and then we go meet with the county and we do our negotiation. If we start cutting ourselves out before we even met with them, I'd rather, you got to start high and then work it from there. But let's not cut any funds now, and that, because you don't want to cut your feet out from under you before you meet with them, because we got to see what they're at too. So I think we don't take any funds away right now. Let's just make sure our priority list is, where we think it should be at, in my opinion.
Right.
That's what I think.
No reason to negotiate with ourselves.
I agree with you, Councillor Lockhart, and for the public, this list was much longer, and through a lot of research and looking at other possible funding that we might receive from grants, et cetera, a number of things have been eliminated from that. And so, Councillor Newman, you seem eager to speak.
I just had an idea for like the next time a council does this. We need a magnetic board so we can move these around so everybody knows what we're talking about, right? That way, like, because there's been like even 4 different ways since the way that I said to redo these. So some sort of board to keep track, because I'm not going to keep track of this.
So,
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, just a suggestion.
Finishing what I was saying, I agree with what Councillor Lockhart said. I don't think we need to cut anymore. I would like to just work on our priorities. And I, right now, am suggesting that Pilot Hill go to number 12 and that the community sports facility move to 14. Okay. Further questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, almost. Councillor Shumway.
I will make a comment. I appreciated the county commissioner that asked town of Rock River, what their ask is going to be, and they said 1.3 million. In the past, they know that they have a very strong position because they must agree with both the county and the city, and I would anticipate that they may ask for more. And I would hope that they don't, because I think 1.3 is much higher than their percentage of their population. But I appreciate that the county commissioner asked, so we had that comment from them early in this process. Hopefully, we'll be able to work with the remaining part where the county and the city divide it with our projects.
Yes, thank you. Now, is there any public comment on this agenda item? Mr. Glass? Welcome, Mr. Glass.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of council. Tonight is the first time I've seen this list. It wasn't there when the agenda was initially published. I had no way. I and others who were interested in this had no way of providing input to this committee as it was talking about things, or even emailing you before the meeting and having a chance for you to see the comments and respond. I'm a little concerned about that. I think there should have been more public input, and also in the discussion tonight. Seems like public comment is only coming at the end as an afterthought. There are some things which I would have liked to see on the list. I would have liked to see something maybe about buying the Bolton lot from the Stencil Group, because we've been talking about downtown parking for a long time. In terms of the sidewalks, curb and gutter, I'd like to talk about seeing if we can expand what the program that there is to non-owner occupied properties, because some of the worst sidewalks that we have in Laramie are in front of apartment buildings and such. I do think before we finalize this, we should negotiate with the University of Wyoming about, about the expense of having to fight fires at their new Hogwarts castle. And certainly maybe they can get money from the state, but certainly we shouldn't be expected to bear the expense of that. And I think that on your current list, the stormwater drainage money is okay, but not adequate. I would actually suggest that that be increased to $10 million because judging from the scale of the projects which were listed in the proposal, we'd need at least that much in order to bring some of the fees down and make it reasonable. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Any further public comment on this agenda item? Yes, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, sorry, this needs to be a little bit taller. Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, my name is Daniel McCoy. I'm a board member of Pilot Hill. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the opportunity that you all provided to move up the prioritization list on Pilot Hill. It's really important to us that we have a long-term solution for management of this. And I just want to say, maybe not speaking on behalf of the board, but just speaking on behalf as a member or just a single member of the board, that we will definitely be huge advocates for going forward. It's so great to see $10.5 million in projects that relate to Parks and Recreation. And I know, as many of you have heard through that public input option when you guys were receiving feedback about the budget previously, you heard a lot from residents about the importance of Parks and Recreation. So it's just great to see so many things on that list that will really just improve the quality of life for residents here in the town. Not to say that, all the other projects and things are very important. It's just one of the things that people get to see, experience, touch, participate in, improve their quality of life, improve health outcomes. So we just really appreciate it. So
thank you, Mr. McCoy. Mr. Henderson.
Mine is more of a question. Number 8 and number 5, sidewalks paved and paving. I think if I understood number 5, it was to pave West Laramie streets.
There's 2 million appropriated for the paving for to paved. Yeah.
Right. Is it possible to solidify that as an effort and still accommodate concerns for ADA ramping and so forth in a meaningful way for a population in a segment of Laramie that has long been postponed and put off and goes from gravel roads in a case versus actually having some sidewalk, be it a difficult maneuvered curb or not? I'd like to see our city be brought up from a base level throughout in the entirety of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Yes. If you can state your name for the record.
Melanie Arnett, Honorable Mayor and members of City Council. I'm not sure if you had mentioned the criteria that you used for ranking these projects. They are all very worthy projects, and in looking them over, I don't know if it's too late to ask you to consider one more swap, and I hope that nobody gets mad at me for asking for this swap. But I am noticing that the Pilot Hill project serves a very broad community of all ages and many abilities, whereas the splash pad really serves a very narrow group. I know that needs to be done, and I'm just asking if that is a consideration that might happen so that could be bumped up to the 10th place rather than the 12th place.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Yes. Good evening.
Honorable Mayor and members of council, I want to reiterate what Dan said. Thank you for the hard work you put into this, and listening to the discussion tonight. I'm impressed by the challenge that you face. There are a lot of uncertainties out there. Some of the projects, we have some spitball costs. Some of the projects are just kind of conceptual at this point, and you're trying to weigh all those things together. And so I appreciate the challenge that you guys face. I'll just say one or two additional things about Pilot Hill. One is that we do serve a broad spectrum of the community, and that we could bring diversity to the package of projects. And the other thing I would say is that we're pretty far down the road in knowing what our costs are and knowing what we need as operating funds. We have cost estimates on electricity and water and trash collection and so forth. So listening to this discussion, I feel like Pilot Hill is pretty, well, we're ahead of the game in terms of what we know about the cost of the what we're proposing. So thanks again, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Oh, it's Charlie.
Megan?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is.
Oh, go ahead.
Haynes.
Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to reiterate, we did have a meeting here a couple of years ago, I believe, with both the city council and members of the county commission to discuss just in general the concept of Pilot Hill being managed by a private nonprofit entity, albeit with management agreements in place with the county. And however, it is an incredible public resource that is well used by a broad spectrum of people in the community. It's public land. It should be maintained with public funds. It's a really beautiful asset for this community that the Pilot Hill project has invested a lot of effort, resources, grant money, foundation money, money from John Evans that now needs to be maintained as a public resource. And so I would just encourage you to consider moving this up the priority list because it is such an amazing public resource at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Any further public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none. Back to council for final comments. Yes, Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd consider moving Pilot Hill in front of the splash pads, just based on all the comments that were just made.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I would as well. And I just want to add one other piece to this that I know has been a part of the Pilot Hill discussion. And that is when we're thinking about this funding, I think this group right now is thinking, it may not be Pilot Hill into the future who takes care of this. There may be a joint powers board. There may be something different that comes out. So the idea of the sustainable funding is that wherever it lands, whether it's with Pilot Hill in the future, or if it's with a different entity that is county owned or school board joint powers, whatever that looks like, these dollars are kind of, to what Megan had said, are for that space. So keeping that space open. So I also, for that reason as well, would be okay with moving that up, and would love to hear what others think about that too.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilor Bowling.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I agree. And I just want to reiterate that point. I think moving Pilot Hill perhaps to spot 11 on this current list is a great idea. Not that we don't need to replace the splash pads, but I wonder if they do have a little bit more life in them, and if there's other ways to figure out ways to accommodate those renovations if it's pushing it down the line a little bit. I think most importantly, when this goes on a ballot, and we're going to need to show people not only are we doing public safety and public infrastructure that's going to make their lives better, but the sheer number of people that utilize this space every day. I use the Pilot Hill Recreation Area 4 times a week. And when we're asking people to vote on something that's going to impact their overall quality of life, this is going to be a really important one. And I don't mean that to just sound political, because I think everything that the representatives of the organization here have said today is really true. So I would support moving that up.
Thank you, Councillor. Vice Mayor.
I do want to be really honest, though. When we were having this discussion about the splash pad upgrades, they are very difficult to get covered by any sort of grant, if I remember correctly, which is why we had it a little bit higher. So I feel like I need to be transparent with that, even though I would be okay. So.
Was that a raised hand, Councillor Newman, or yes? Councillor Newman.
That's why I had them numbered, because I knew them. I think you and I talked about that when you called me. So because of the financing aspect of getting the splash pool done, that's why I wanted to put it above Pilot Hill, because it seems like that's going to be the harder challenge to get money for than Pilot Hill would be. Because Pilot Hill, we can still give them the community partners part of that as well, to help with that. So that's kind of why I had those numbers, just so you guys were aware.
And that was a good clarification that the Vice Mayor made, is that those types of the splash pools are very hard to fund. And so we may be not looking at alternative funding, but having to close it down if we don't get it in proper order. Councillor Vigil.
Thank you, Mayor.
And then Councillor Shumway.
This was explained to us in a work session weeks or months ago, and I just don't remember. How much life is left in those splash pads? Do we know? I swear I heard a number on that at some point.
Let's ask the director.
Honorable Mayor, through you to Councillor Vigil. The Undine splash pad is functional right now, but it is aging equipment very rapidly. We've had to do a lot of patches and fixes. The Washington wading pool is in much worse shape. It's very difficult to maintain. It's very difficult to staff. It requires a lot more labor and chemicals. And so switching it to a splash pad, as Assistant City Manager Fieser had mentioned, we're also part of this is we're trying to move from a chemical treated system to something that's much more green, that would hopefully utilize water coming in that then goes into some sort of a holding tank that we can then reuse for irrigating the grounds around there. And so there's, both need for, reducing some of our chemical usage, cost, staffing, and the aging infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. I know that in our initial discussion, we talked about the specific purpose tax being approximately $90 million, which if Rock River takes 1.3, it leaves about 44 million for the county, 44 million for the city. Now, I know we have these priorities and they total more than $44 million. Do we plan on reducing them in a percentage reduction or dropping off some at the bottom of the list? What's the plan for this, or is that something for our special meeting?
I think that's something for a special meeting to see how that unfolds. I think we do have, having put the community sports facility at the bottom right now, and also discussing the possibility that if the community really supports that, of funding it with 7 cent then that would remove 5 million right away and bring us closer. So I think that we come in where we're at right now and in negotiation with the county, we begin to determine if it's half and half or if, you know, what they're willing to do. I think that's where it stands right now, rather than assume half and go in. Yes, sir.
Can I ask just one more question?
Yes.
I believe that the population, the city of Laramie is about, compared to the county, is in the 70s. Is that correct? And the county's
at least.
Okay.
Yes. Correct. Councilor Newman.
To comment first, I don't know if I like the idea of going into the meeting without a plan.
I think we have a plan.
No, I mean, like, are we gonna, like, getting back to Councilor Shumway's, so if my math is right, we have to cut 13 million. If they don't approve this and it's split, like Councilor Shumway said, I think we need a plan. Are we gonna take 10% off of each number? Or are we gonna drop the bottom 4? Like, because if not, we're going to be negotiating with ourselves in front of people who have the power, right? So I think we need to come up with, are we going to just drop off number? You guys, when you negotiate, are you just going to drop off the bottom 2? And then if that suffices, or are we going to say, no, we want all these projects, but we're going to take 10% off? That's my comment. And then my question, I think, is for, I don't know, one of the staff members. Mr. Henderson's question. I assume when we do roads in West Laramie, for those $2 million, there'll be sidewalks on those roads, correct? Because that's what Wyoming Avenue is doing, right? Okay, thank you. Yeah, so all that would be included.
Councilor Lockhart.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate Councilor Newman's comments. They're doing the same thing at the county too. They've got a big ask. So, you know.
But they specifically said what they would cut off.
I don't see that. I didn't see that list. I just saw the list I saw was everything that they wanted. You know, so I don't know anything about what they would cut. So I guess that's where I'm at.
And I have no knowledge. I have a list of ask, just like we have a list of ask right now. Councilor Freed, then Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess, a couple comments from my perspective is, really appreciate the public feedback. And I think a lot of these items highlight some of the comments from Mr. Glass. A fire upgrade could include some of the public comment questions. And from all the Pilot Hill board members, I really think that Pilot Hill is a huge asset to this community. And Mr. Henderson, I think, paving West Laramie and make sure we have curb and gutter is a huge priority. And so my first comment on all those is, I think when we look at this in the future, one of the biggest priorities should be a decision matrix that really is dictated by how hard funding is for some of these issues. Because, we put money in our general fund for streets every year. It doesn't mean all our streets are going to get paved, but hearing some of these conversations tonight, which the subcommittee might have been briefed on, and that's why we have this list. So I think that could already be happening, but just for the public's knowledge too, a decision matrix that highlights the need for the community and also the access to funding opportunities. Because if this is our only way to fund a rec center, that would bump those projects up for me, versus some of these other projects where there's other opportunities for grants and other funding. And I think the city staff has briefed the subcommittee on that, but maybe I think, Mrs. Arnett's comment about how we made these decisions, but providing a decision matrix that includes, priorities for where funding comes from and the need in our community would be really helpful. And can I make one more comment, Mayor?
Yes, continue.
Thank you. I really appreciate Councilmember Shumway and Councilmember Newman talking about how we're going into this. And I know we've prepped, but my thought would be come up tonight with a few projects at the bottom. Maybe that community sports complex is an easy one that we might be able to put on for a seventh penny tax down the line, or wait till some of that funding is, or that study is complete. But being willing to walk into that negotiation and say, we can drop X amount of dollars if we had to, and then a percentage of certain projects, as opposed to just removing some of these initiatives from there. But I think maybe a mixed approach would make sense in my mind. Some of those that we think we can get funding for in other capacities in the next few years, if that's a possibility.
Did you want to add something before Mr. Freeze?
I just was, and maybe this is what you are maybe going to get to, but I would just say that this list, the dollar amounts that are there are because we need them. So that's already been looked at. I would say generally, some of these things are a little squishy, right? Because we don't exactly know, but generally we've looked at other fire departments in other cities and we know that they cost $7 million and that we will need to bond. So we need to add the additional money. So I think those things are there. And the reason then that we rank these is because we know the bottom ones are the ones that we feel like we're going to start taking them off. I think by taking off a percentage of all of these things, then these dollar amounts, it's not accurate to what has been done in knowing that this is how much it should cost. So from my perspective and the conversations that we've had in that committee is that we work our way up, and that is why this ranking is so important. So I guess I would just leave it at that. And if, Assistant City Manager, I'm sure you have other thoughts too.
Honorable Mayor, through you, that would highly discourage you from talking about what you're going to negotiate right now. The reason that we set up the subcommittee team is to be that negotiating body and to work off the number that we're going for right now, identified through the subcommittee and staff as a $57 million ballot ask. And that's what we need to go into the project with, and know that those projects are all valuable to this community and something we need to work on. Now, I would encourage our subcommittee to work with their council members and find out and get their thoughts as you move into negotiations. But talking about cutting the community sports facility, you might have already killed that one. Might be already off the list. Why even add it on there? Right? You're talking about negotiating items between multiple entities that we're trying to work on. And probably one of the worst things I could do is go in at 57, but this is off the list already. That didn't really get you any benefit, right?
Right.
So.
And I don't think we know yet, before we get into negotiations, what on this list is also very important to commissioners. And it may be that a sports facility is seen as essential for the entire county, or Pilot Hill for the entire county. And so I think we go in with our list and it gives us a guideline, but there are things on this list that are going to be more meaningful than others to the commission, and we don't know what that is until we get into negotiations.
Honorable Mayor, if I may also remind the council of something. If you look down your list, priority 1 right now is sitting as the police department renovation replacement, 2 is an animal shelter replacement, 3 is a fire station 1 replacement. And so I would highly discourage you against using a model where you're just cutting a percentage of things, because all you're doing is creating general fund obligations. Please, from staff's perspective, I would appreciate it if we didn't do that, because we're shifting the financial burden. There are some of these categories that are set aside for more generic investments like street improvements or storm improvements, but those seem to be fairly high priorities for the council. And so I just want to offer you that very real financial caution about taking a let's slash 20% off of all approach, and still committing us to doing these projects, which is what you would be doing if you put them on the ballot. Thank you for that.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Any further comments? Vice Mayor.
So thank you. Just one more thing. It was mentioned by a constituent that they would have liked to seen some of this money go toward the purchase of the Bolton lot. And I just want to share that that was attempted last year and was not able to be purchased. And that is off the table. That has already been sold to another entity. So that is, just wanted to highlight that point.
Councillor O'Doherty.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that we talked about these categories when I believe it was the assistant city manager presented what the city thinks are priorities, and that was an earlier work session. So just putting it in a spreadsheet now and trying to, balance the numbers among the voting members is what we're doing now.
Thank you. Councillor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think we've had a lot of great advice tonight. I think that we should have the committee that's been working on this decide which projects have a firm number, because when we go into negotiation, I think there is the temptation for us to do, cut in a percentage, and I don't agree with that. Even though that's why I asked what our plan is for this. I do know this: if we would have had 25 policemen come and say we need the police building, 25 firemen say we need the fire building, 25 people from animal control say we need, they would all be getting their projects. Or if we had 25 people come and say we need a sports, arena, that would probably be moved into a stronger position than what we have. I think what we have to do is say, what is best for the citizens of Laramie? What's best for the community? What is it that we need to have that gives us the best future for all of the projects that we have in front of us, and then determine which ones we're going to have a firm number on, and which ones we can, when it comes time, we can consider to negotiate with.
Thank you. Further comments? Is that it? All right. So this ends our work session. And we will adjourn this work session for now. We will take a 7-minute break and then come back. We will reconvene for the special meeting. So thank you very much. The work session is adjourned. You're fine. You're fine. Don't run. Okay. Welcome back. And I'm calling to order this special meeting of the Laramie City Council. City Clerk, if you can please call the roll.
Bowling.
Here.
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 Here. B.
Here.
That's 9 present and 0 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Our next item of business, is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Oh. You ready? Seeing none, I am going to ask the Vice Mayor to read Resolution 2025-73.
Thank you, Mayor.
Or no.
Or just move on. Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. The city clerk, okay, I'm sorry. The city clerk, if you can read the public announcement of the special meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Notice is hereby given that a work session of this Laramie City Council will be held Monday, September 8th, 2025 at 6:00 p.m., followed by a special meeting at City Hall Council Chambers, 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming, and via Zoom meeting, ID number 831-3046-2820, passcode 143357. For the following purpose. The work session, number 1 was public comment on non-agenda related items. Number 2 was the City of Laramie 2026 specific purpose excise tax project discussion. The special meeting will be number 1, call to order and roll call. Number 2, public comment on non-agenda related items. And number 3, resolution 2025-37, setting a priority list for the City of Laramie 2026 for specific purpose excise tax projects, and number 4 to adjourn. Sorry. And the resolution number is 2021.
Thank you. Thank you, City Clerk. Vice Mayor, if you can make the motion, please.
Thank you. I move that the Laramie City Council approve Resolution 2025-73 designating the City of Laramie's prioritized project list for the 2026 specific purpose excise tax and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
I have a motion from Richardson, a second from Lockhart. Good evening, Mr. Fieser.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, it's good to be here in front of the special meeting now. Excited to present with you. City Clerk Bartholomew did distribute a substitute resolution that includes the priority list, as we believe we heard it from the City Council. The only changes that we've made are, I will go through the project list in order. Number 1 is still the Laramie Police Department renovation or replacement at $12 million. Number 2 is the Laramie Animal Shelter replacement at $3,600,000. Project number 3 is the Laramie Fire Station number 1 replacement at $8,400,000. Number 4 is surface water drainage improvements at $4 million with a $3 million general fund pledge. Project number 5 are street projects at $9 million with a $7 million general fund pledge. Project number 6 is West Bill Nye Street Project, $5.5 million. Project 7, Laramie Regional Airport support at $1.5 million. Project number 8, Sidewalk ADA Improvement Program, $1 million. Number 9, Recreation Center Facility Maintenance at $2 million. Number 10, West Laramie Park and Playground at $1.5 million with a $200,000 general fund pledge. Project number 11 is the Undine Splash Pad Improvement and Washington Park Wading Pool Conversion to Splash Pad at $1 million. Pilot number 12 is Pilot Hill Project Support at $1 million. Number 13 is Public Transportation Pilot Program to West Laramie at $1.5 million. And number 14 is Community Sports Facility Projects at $5 million. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councilors, are there any questions?
Honorable Mayor, I believe we'll need a motion to amend by substitute 2025-73A.
Can you repeat that, Nancy?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, what Assistant City Manager was saying is that in order to take this resolution and have this be the one that you're voting on tonight, you need a motion to amend by substitution.
Okay, and I will make that motion to amend by substitution.
Vice Mayor.
Second.
I have a motion from Richardson, second from O'Doherty.
Mayor, if I could just have a clarification as to what the motion is.
Amend by substitution items 1 through 14 on the project list with the dollar amounts that are noted. Does that work?
You can make it even simpler and say to amend by substitution, resolution number 2025-73A.
That's how you're so smart and do this all for us. Thank you. I will amend by substitution 2025-73A.
And
Second.
so I have a motion from Richardson, second from O'Doherty. Do we need roll call vote on that? Oh, discussion. So any questions or comments? Is there any public comment on this motion to amend by substitution? Seeing none, back to council. Any final comments? City Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Lockhart.
Here, I mean, yes.
Yes.
Behill.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Freed.
Yes.
Bowling.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Tumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes as amended,
That's just
as substituted, as
the amendment to replace the
to
resolution
replace
with 73A.
with by substitution.
Yeah, that passed. Now we go back to the main motion too.
Now we're back to the main motion. Okay. So back to the main motion. Any questions or comments? Is there any public comment on the main motion? Back to council. Any final comments? Councilor Freed.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thanks to the subcommittee that worked on this really hard with the city staff and also for city staff's answers to some of my questions tonight. So thank you very much for all your help.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councilor Shumway?
I think I know the answer to this, but as we move to the next meeting in Rock River on Monday, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
The voice for the city council is going to be the negotiating team. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the final decision will be with, after we have negotiated, is our mayor. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. And I would just like to thank the city staff and directors for the time and effort that they've put in to putting this together, to helping us understand the scope, especially to Director Wade and Assistant City Manager Feeser for helping us to narrow this list down, to recognize where we might get other funding and removing some of the pressure that we had on our ask. And I'd like to really thank the council for all the work that you've put into this and the committee. We've met almost every day now since we formed the subcommittee. And I just want to thank everybody for working together on this. So, City Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Bowling.
Aye.
Newman.
Yes.
Somebody.
Yes.
Beagle.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Cumbie.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That motion passes. Councilor O'Doherty,
I move we adjourn.
all in favor?
Aye.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you so much.